It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Thursday? We do. You do. From the Dixie Line Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, we welcome you to our Thursday podcast, Hacksaw's Headlines. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. We're going to be here for the next hour plus. We're going to talk sports, a lot of topics on the table. Then we invite you to stay with us for Fans Forum right at the end. This podcast is brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations in San Diego to serve you. You got projects, they've got materials, you want ideas, they'd be glad to help you. It is bye week before we get to Super Bowl Sunday. John Riley, good afternoon. It may be an off week for the NFL, but boy, we got a lot of topics to talk about.
A ton to talk about, a lot going on in baseball. And right now, the Dodger fans are giddy about all the problems with the Padres, which I'm sure we're going to get to.
And we're going to cover it all. And then when we're done, we're going to move the topics on the table to the side. You're going to take over the rest of this podcast. John, for everybody who's new, who's just joining us, entering the circle for the first time, what is Fans Forum? How do they get involved?
Okay, Fans Forum is your chance to get involved, and we want new people to get involved. So if you have a question or comment in the world of sports for Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, type in your question or comment in the live chat, Facebook, X, YouTube. We'll get you involved at the conclusion of Hacksaw's Headlines.
And a reminder, if you like sports, please check my website. I write on it every day of the week, the best 15 minutes in sports, my one man's opinion column. LeeHacksawHamilton.com. It's right there on the internet. When we're done with the podcast, sample what I write. It's there first thing every morning for you. By the way, you're on social media. I want you to join my Twitter All-Star team on X. That's very simple. Just go to @Hacksaw1090, Hacksaw1090. Hit the follow button because I put a lot of stuff up on Twitter, on X. Be part of my team. Also, want you to join Hacksaw's Insiders Group. That'll put you on a special email list for all the unique things that we offer. You can register by just going to my website. There's an orange box right on the front page. Just fill that out. That way you'll get on the email list for the unique things we're doing. Want you to share. Tell everybody what we do Mondays at 1 p.m., Thursdays at 1 p.m. Hacksaw is back on a brand new platform. And we want you to subscribe to the YouTube channel because when you subscribe, and we do put unique things up on the YouTube channel. Aside from the podcast, you'll get the alerts every time there's something new that's being posted. Ding, 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 ding. There'll be something there to watch. So we're going a lot of different directions on the program. And already people are starting to pour into the Fans Forum chat box. Only recommendation I make, just make your comment brief. Please don't write a book because it's kind of tough for us to read it all. And we try to get through as many as we can. And we do get a lot in the chat box. John, where do you want to start?
Okay, I'm a Padre fan, and we have to say goodbye to our good friend Ha-Seong Kim.
Yeah, the Padres situation, Kim exits. That comes 24 hours after PROFAR exits. I don't blame the Padres. They have payroll issues. They have ownership issues. They have restriction issues as it relates to the general manager, what he can and cannot do. Ha-Seong Kim was a gem of a find and an acquisition over a 4-year span, had a couple of good seasons, struggled the first season, got hurt the last season. Problem is that he went to Tampa Bay for $15 million the first year, an option for $16 million the second year. He's coming off rotator cuff surgery. He's not going to be able to play till probably June 1st, and then you don't know what kind of player he's going to be coming off this surgery. At the end of the day, they had him under contract for $8 million. He opted out. I would not pay him at this point, $248 lifetime hitter, would not pay him $15 to $16 million with a great unknown. How's he respond? You got that coming on the heels of the PROFAR situation. And PROFAR had a banner season, or maybe a banner first 2/3 of last season. And they offered him 5 years plus $3 million in incentives, which would have bumped him up to $8 million. And instead, he went to Tampa Bay for $14 million per season for the next 3 years. I should say to Atlanta. I just don't know that the Padres are going to pay $14 million a year to Jurickson Profar based on 5 months of good baseball or dominant baseball over the course of his entire career. So I think we're really bothered by losing two integral guys. The Padres have signed 17 minor league free agents. These are the names that are most recognizable. These guys don't solve any of the Padre problems with the roster. Rob Marinaccio was with the Yankees and with the White Sox. This guy's got unique electric stuff. Not a lot of consistency. That's a big issue. They pick him up in a trade from the White Sox. Part of me says, hey, you're going to expose Marinaccio to what this pitching coach can deliver. And I think you'd agree with me that Padres pitching coach has great credentials. However, if this guy were superb, would the Yankees have let him go? Would the 121-loss White Sox have let him go? So he's just a name with electric stuff. So now we'll see if the Padres pitching coach can flip him to make him more consistent. They just brought back the ex-Colorado Rocky All-Star catcher, ELIAS DIAZ. That's okay by me. He'll be a super utility guy, first guy off the bench, maybe behind Campusano if Campusano is still here, or working with the next guy. But here's the problem. The rest of those guys on that list, and those are the only marquee names that have had cups of coffee in Major League Baseball. Martin Maldonado was with the White Sox, and they let him go. Hit 119 last season. NICO GOODRUM, once upon a time, was a hot outfield prospect. He hit 103 last year, splitting the season with 4 different clubs. Oscar Gonzalez was a part-time fill-in guy for the Yankees, went to Cleveland, got a little bit of pop, but he's never hit consistently in the majors. And Moises Gomez is a career minor league home run hitter. We call them 4A players. He's got some power, never done anything at the major league level. So as I said, A.J. Preller has acquired 17 minor leaguers, and the only name with big potential might be Marinaccio. The only one that's proven is DIAZ. The rest of them are just guys. It's not a good look going towards the start of the season because they still don't have a left fielder. Who's the catcher? Now you lost one of your infielders who've been productive. It's just a real issue. Am I punching the panic button over here on the far right? No, not yet. Let's give Preller space to work some more magic because historically, he's worked magic. You know, he went to Japan and he found you Robert Suarez and rented Nick Martinez and other guys who contributed. He has made acquisitions and deals to bring in somebody that wasn't ready to be a star and help them turn into a star, a.k.a. Michael King. The latest is that the Cubs have now approached the Padres about Dylan Cease. They're having dialogue about the potential of a swap that would bring the Padres another pitcher, Jordan Wick, who's got really good stuff, had an ERA of just over 5. And they're also talking to the Cubs about possibly bringing in a left fielder. We'll see if that transaction occurs. The only problem is if you're trading established people like Dylan Cease or like Luis Ariz, who, by the way, the Mets are having conversation. If you're trading them, you're subtracting proven commodities for younger players at affordable prices, but you're getting equal value for value. But I'm not going to condemn Preller at this point. Let's give him a little bit more space to actually see what the roster looks like on opening day, because I still maintain there's going to be a trade. So, John, I posted a lot of information there, gave you a lot of opinions. Are you upset that Kim is gone? Would you have paid either Kim or PROFAR the money that their agents wound up delivering them to get from Tampa or from Atlanta? And what do you make of the laundry list of guys, the 17 guys, minor league guys, that Preller has brought on board? The floor is yours.
This is so disappointing. We went from being so overjoyed. This team was like just on the brink of getting to the World Series a couple of times in the last couple of years.
Knocking on the World Series door.
Yeah. And now we're looking at Martin Maldonado and NICO GOODRUM. Who the hell are these guys? Where's Alexi Amarista and Kyle Blank? Say they're the ones missing from this list. This is a disgrace. Now, I'm with you. I still trust Preller. I don't think Preller is doing what he can within the limits of his situation. I agree with you. He'll pull a rabbit out of his hat. He'll make a deal like right at the end of spring training or, right before they go to break camp. Let's see what happens. But it just seems like the chaos with the Civil War, with the ownership and everything has just created a poisoned environment with the team.
They'd never made a phone call to Trevor Bauer at 20-2 in the last 2 years in Mexico and Japan, has gone back to the Yokohama Bay Stars. They were not at Max Scherzer's showcase workout in Arizona. one or both of those guys could have been one-year rentals that might have bought them some time, given them some quality starts. You disappointed by that?
You know, it's funny because a lot of people gave you crap about the whole Bauer thing. You know, like, oh, there's no way Bauer's coming back. And did you see the tweet that Bauer made? He goes, there's like 20 good hitters that would challenge me, and the rest of them, I can just blow them away. And people are saying, no, you know, they're showing video clips of these like scrub players taking Bauer yard. I kind of wonder now, maybe, you know, obviously he's got a blacklist on him, but is he really as good as maybe we think he is? Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not. Might not be even worth it.
89 and 64 ERA of under 3.5. That's proven commodity. Jerk. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Chipper Jones is just ripping them apart right now online.
Well, we don't have to worry about it because he's now with the Bay Stars going back to Japan, and the Padres still have these holes. If you're a Padre fan, feel free to jump on board. Are you upset? Are you angry? You hitting the panic button? Are you pissed that ownership has no transparency about this civil war in the front office? You willing to give Preller a little bit more time and space to work his magic? So what is the emotional pulse of Padre season ticket holder? We'd like to hear from you. Fans Forum box will be open. Jump on board, make a comment, express an opinion. I guess I'm asking, do we need to give A.J. Preller a vote of confidence? Do we need to give the organization's leadership, including ownership, a vote of confidence right now? By the way, there are still players out there to go get. Second topic here, John.
Yeah, look at this list. I mean, these names aren't necessarily, you know, getting you too excited, are they?
There's hardly anybody left. I know Tommy Pham was popular in some spots. I know he has been productive at times. St. Louis, Tampa, for a short period with the Padres. Understand he's got attitude, which you kind of like. But the guy's asking for a lot of money. And the guy, last time he was here, hit 220 and got stabbed. Verdugo has kind of disappeared off the radar. One time hot Dodger property. Played well Boston. Did okay with the New York Yankees and faded. Did not have a good season last year. People have talked to him. No offers. I like Harrison Bader. Multi-position outfielder. Dude can fly. If he hits 240, 250, and he gives you quality of defense, why not take a look? David Peralta's out there. Maybe he comes back, but the price tag is there. A little bit surprised Justin Turner has not yet re-signed, but there's limitations there, and he's more third baseman than he is first baseman. Anthony Rizzo was unsigned. There's a lot of mileage there. There's an injury factor there. Did not hit very well. Yon Moncada is one of the young collective guys the White Sox had who just fell under the black cloud of injuries and just never, ever came back. Mark Canha has been around the block a couple times, last with the Tigers, last with the Giants. J.D. Martinez, one-dimension guy, designated hitter out there, yet to sign. Michael Taylor, good glove, no bat. Paul DeYoung, shortstop, second baseman, plays lots of positions. Not the hitter he used to. That's what's left. And there's hardly any pitching left. That's what's left. So if Preller is going to change the roster, John, it's probably going to have to be by virtue of a trade. And here's the weird part about the conversation. I just mentioned about the Dylan Cease trade talks with the Cubs. The Cubs evidently are offering this young outfielder, Owen Cassey, to the Padres, in addition to one veteran pitcher, Jordan Wick. Cassey was a Padre draft pick.
Yeah.
Second-round choice.
Wasn't he in the Darvish deal?
Boom. You got it.
Yeah.
Career 278 minor league hitter. Fast. Strikes out way too much. He's kind of stalled at AAA. Is he your left fielder? Is that the answer? He wasn't good enough the first time. You kept them and then you traded him away. Now you're going to bring him back with Jordan Wick, who's not been able to establish himself in the rotation. But that's what's being discussed with the Dylan Cease trade, which then spins back to my comment with the first topic on the table. How do you really help yourself if you subtract proven quality guy like Dylan Cease and you replace him with younger guys like Owen Cassey and Jordan Wick? Does that really make you a better team? You're out from underneath Cease's contract, but are you better? That's where Preller's having to make a deal from. So, reaction?
Yeah, so much of this seems so irrational. Yeah. You know, and you go back to this list, and right here I see 3 Dodger cast-offs in Turner, Martinez, and Verdugo. I see 3 former Padres in Pham, Rizzo, and Peralta. I mean, so this is, we've already seen some people online saying this is dumpster diving all over again. And so this kind of reminds me of, Kevin Towers back in the day, but none of these guys are going to solve your problem. There may be a complementary piece, the way Peralta and Solano were last year, but these guys aren't going to be the savior. Frankly, I would rather play young players than kind of, hope one of these guys is going to play 150 games for you.
That's where we are. You're a Padre fan. Fans Forum chat box is open. Dive on board. We want to hear what you've got to say. Next topic on the table.
Next topic, we're going to talk about some big deals, big names in the NBA.
February 6th is the NBA trading deadline, and I have never seen in recent years the collection of marquee names that are on the trade block. Impending free agency, salary cap issues, injuries, attitude. Check any of those boxes off. Let's just go through these names. This story has just broken within the last day and a half. I don't understand how, as an organization, you can have any credibility if you do this. Sacramento has put De'Aaron Fox, their all-star guard averaging 24 points per game, on the trade block. He has turned down contract extensions. I guess the theory in Sacramento, a.k.a. Cowtown, trade him a year early rather than lose him and get absolutely nothing for him because he's going to walk as a free agent. Rumors are San Antonio is interested in De'Aaron Fox, and the Spurs arrow is surely pointed up with all the quality young guys they have led by Victor Wembanyama. De'Aaron Fox could be moved. There's reports also De'Aaron Fox might go to Miami. De'Aaron Fox could be the focal point of what might be a 3 or 4 team trade. Miami. Jimmy Butler's out there. Jimmy Butler's going to be gone. He'll be gone by February 6th. Miami is shopping him. There's a report out there that could be as much as a 4-team trade that would put Jimmy Butler in Phoenix with the Suns where he wants to go. He's already dropped the hint. Don't you trade my ass to Memphis or to Milwaukee because I won't report. Pat Riley is just furious. He's beyond himself. And in all honesty, Butler's screwing with the wrong guy in terms of Pat Riley. But Jimmy Butler is out there. Third team is New Orleans. They've waited and waited and waited. There's a question about this guy's health. The bigger question about this guy's maturity and attitude. Talking about Zion Williamson. That's a star, really good player who can't stay on the court for a whole wide variety of reasons. He's missed 67% of the games. He was supposed to play over 5 years with New Orleans. He's still making $35 to $37 million a year. Now he's asked to be traded. New Orleans is a disaster of a franchise because they got him and they got Brandon Ingram that they're still trying to trade. Got Chicago. They continue to move parts around. Don't have a lot of success. They're talking about trading one of their big men, Nikola Vucevic, who is very productive. He's on the trade block. Lakers have some interest in him. Lonzo Ball is on the trade block. But there's 2.5 years of injury issues with him and whether or not he can actually hold up after this unique cartilage transplant graft surgery that he's had. He's playing right now, but what's his long-term ability to stay on the floor? Zach LaVine is also on the trade block in Chicago. In Milwaukee, they're talking about we have to change the chemistry around Giannis, and we have to get more people to play with Giannis and Damian Lillard. And they're talking about possibly moving Chris Middleton and Bobby Portis in some type of package deal. Now, some of these guys are on expiring contracts, so Milwaukee might make a deal. I'll send you my 2 veterans. You give me what I want. You're going to have all their cap space when these guys become free agents. And then, of course, you got the Suns. And the Suns have been trying to put together a dream team for the last group of years. And they got Devin Booker and they got Kevin Durant. And they've just not been able to compile anybody else around them with any consistency. And their ownership, Matt Ishbia, he made this trade last year to get Brad Beal. And Beal drags big contract, attitude issues, and injury history with him to the Valley of the Sun. He can't stay on the court. And they're trying to use him as a trade chip. So who wants Brad Beal with attitude and injury history on your roster? And then you got the weird one in Minnesota, the ones that traded Karl Anthony Towns really early in the season and the big trade with the New York Knicks. This made New York pretty good. Cats played pretty well for the Knickerbockers. They got Julius Randle back. They're trying to trade Julius Randle already. Minnesota is out there. And then you got the Lakers. And the rumor of the Lakers is they're trying to find anybody that can protect the rim. But the problem is, to find somebody, you're going to have to give up both your number one picks, or maybe a number one and then one of your other first frontline guys like Rui Hachimura or Gabe Vincent or somebody else. And the other intangible of the Lakers, you look down the bench, who wants the rest of these guys? The rest of these guys, Rob Pelinka has brought in all types of guys, every type of transaction he could make over 3 years, and they're still scuffling to be a playoff team at 4, 5, or 6. Lakers have got all kinds of problems there. So that's where we are. Those are the names. This De'Aaron Fox to San Antonio thing, I think, has got legs. This would be a hell of an acquisition for the Spurs. And by the way, Spurs got stockpile of number one draft picks, and they're looking for people to put around Wemby. So, John, don't shoot an air ball. Give me a good opinion here. Hit the basket, take it to the rim. Go ahead.
You know, I thought De'Aaron Fox was going to be a star in this league, and he kind of is, but in an obscure place. I thought Zion Williamson was going to be an uber star in this league, and he's been a disaster. So all these names you're talking about, it's interesting. A lot of them are, like you say, malcontents, but they're also big price guys that are hard contracts to move. But it's weird in the NBA where you see teams will purposely trade for guys that they clearly don't want, just so they know that they're going to fall off the end of their contract, off the roster in a year or so. And then in a couple of years, they're going to have huge cap space. So that seems like the only reason to trade some of these malcontents.
Well, I concur with you, but how does Sacramento, which has really been down for an extended period of time, how does Sacramento, which by the way is winning right now under this interim coaching situation with Doug Christie, how does Sacramento face its fans if you're going to trade a superstar? And in all honesty, that's what De'Aaron Fox has become. I mean, he's a legitimate star. He just doesn't want to stay there in massive rebuild forever and ever. He's been there, 4 or 5 years, and all he's seen is the names change and nothing's changed. So he's not a bad dude. Williamson, to me, there's something not collectively right with that guy's approach to training, that guy's work ethic, that guy's attitude, and yet he's got this phenomenal skill. And Butler, I mean, this guy has talked himself off 3 teams now with his actions, and there's always injuries, and there's always personal issues with the guy. And then he just got suspended a 3rd time in a month, went to practice, walked off the floor, didn't come back, and they suspended him again. He's going to be suspended through the trade deadline, but he's 35 years of age. And this is the guy that said, I can't find joy in Miami. Guy making $49 million this year with a $52 million option. It's just talking about Peck's bad boys. There's a lot of bad boys in the NBA.
Yeah, there's too many of them. But, you know, if they get suspended, do they still get paid?
No.
So why are the Heat suspending Butler and then quickly bringing him back? I mean, I would just suspend the guy indefinitely.
Okay, you can only suspend him for a certain limit of time. I think the max suspension is 7, unless the guy gets himself arrested.
Okay.
But, you know, they suspend him for 2, then they suspend him for 7 for insubordination, then they suspend him for 2 more after he walked off the court. I mean, he's forfeited I want to say $4.2 million of his salary already. He don't give a crap. He's making $49 million. There's nickels and dimes. I mean, isn't that just a horrible sign of what the NBA's become?
Yeah, it's a disgrace. But we got to figure out a way, at least the NBA has to figure out a way to get some of these guys out of the league. I mean, if they're going to be a malcontent and I'm not playing, well, then screw that guy. Get him out of here.
Yeah, but you're stuck in some cases with guaranteed contracts.
I know. That's the problem.
That's the problem. You are an NBA fan. You're a Laker fan. You're a Clipper fan. Feel free. Join us. Fans Forum chat box is open. Is the trauma that you and I are talking about as significant? Do you think it's really degraded the quality of the NBA? Is this thing totally out of control that the players are making all this money and doing what they're doing with no responsibility to the coach, to the franchise, to the fan that's paying the ticket price? Fans Forum chat box is open. Hey, we're doing sports talk the way it should be done. I put topics on the table. John and I express opinions, although sometimes his are from left field. And then we want you to join us in Fans Forum. We get to Halftime, our Thursday podcast brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you. Does not matter to me what the project is you have in your house. You want to put up bookcases? You want to put up shelves? You're going to redo the kitchen? You want to do something as it relates to closets in the bedroom? You want to make space in the family room? Do something out in the garage? You got projects, they got materials. You want ideas? That's why Dixie Line lumber has been so successful for 100+ years in San Diego. John's used them. I used them. We're pleased. What do you like most about Dixie Line?
First of all, it's funny how you always bring up bookcases, because obviously they sell lumber and the things you can use to make a bookcase, and they might even sell actual bookcases. But now, man, these are the dudes, like, if you want to, like you say, remodel the kitchen, the bathroom, you need doors and windows, you need decking outside, or maybe you're building one of those custom, like, accessory dwelling units, like a granny flat in your backyard. You're building another little small house. These guys have got it all. San Diego, over 100 years, they've helped build this community. Dixie Line Lumber.
Dixie Line Lumber. And just go to the website. That's the easiest thing. Just go to DixieLine.com and just see all the unique things that they have to offer. And like I said, 9 locations in San Diego and the new one up in Orange County. Fans Forum chat box is open. We have covered a ton with Major League Baseball. We've just gone across the radar with everything that is NBA related. And now we go to the second half. In the second half, we're bouncing basketballs at San Diego State.
Yeah, now that was some game on Tuesday against, it was against San Jose State.
Great question. I wrote a column on my website, getting a lot of crap because of what I wrote, but I wrote from the heart. I asked the question to Brian Dutcher, who are you? I mean, we are now at the midway point of the basketball season. And this team has staggered in the middle of the season offensively. There are flashes in which they've not played great defense. Some of the things that we thought that would be strengths have kind of eradicated away. They roared out of the gate, played a tough non-conference schedule. They did beat the University of Houston, nationally ranked as they are. They took apart Creighton. They were in a hell of a game against Gonzaga. And then it's all unraveled. They just don't look to be the same basketball team right now that they were at the start of the season. Begs the question, who are they? I mean, we're talking about Miles not being the gunner that he was early in the season. We're talking about the three-point shooters becoming very, very erratic. No Reese Waters signing. For every good game Magoon Guath has offensively, there's a ton of games in which he's, quote, MIA. And the same thing with the backup center who came from Tennessee. You just never know what you're going to get. The bench is thin. Young guys are going to have spurts where they play well and then have spurts where they're a little bit overwhelmed by it. But I guess what just shocks me, I sat there and I watched them get outscored 18-2 by the Air Force Academy in one game at home. Sat there and watched them lose an 18-point lead at home to Utah State. Saw them get torched at New Mexico by 20+, although that's understandable because it's the Pit, it's Albuquerque, and it's a young basketball team. And this situation with Air Force and Colorado Springs should have lost the game to a really lowly team, somehow won it, and then obviously had this game where they staggered and should have been beaten by San Jose State, somehow won that coming from 21 back. It's just not the same program right now. Is it just by virtue of being so young? Or is there a deficiency there that maybe they have to realize they don't have the right components to the roster? And this could infuriate everybody. As great as Aztec basketball was under Steve Fisher and has continued under that guy, Brian Dutcher, they're not the best basketball team in town. UCSD is about to get to 17 wins. The Tritons, the ones that used to be small college, and are now in Division I, Big West. UCSD almost beat San Diego State. And hell, I bet if they played them now, they might beat them. So who are you, San Diego State? This may infuriate Aztec fans, friends, and alums. That's my perspective. And by the way, I'm going to invoke my favorite phrase as it relates to being a sports talk show host. Call my Kiss My Aztec line and give me a response. John, go ahead. John and I text back and forth during the course of the games, and he's got opinions too. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was having a heart attack on Tuesday night, the way that game unfolded. Okay, first of all, bullshit alert. This is all BS right now. You are trying to stir the pot. Okay. Now the Aztecs are young. They're one of the youngest teams in all of NCAA D1, especially of those that are contending for March Madness. And you're starting what? I don't know. There's like 3 freshmen that get a lot of minutes. You got Magoon Guath is starting. He's a freshman. It's a very young team. And I think there was 2 moments in the press conference afterwards that Dutcher talked about that I thought were important. One was how he said in the beginning of the game, the players were playing too fast, and they were trying to, obviously they got behind quick because San Jose State was out of their mind, hitting 3-point shots from everywhere. The young men there wanted to get 20 points back in 1 possession. So they were going too fast, and they're playing. This is the key part. When they're young, they're 19, 20, they're playing in front of their dudes, in front of their friends, in front of their family. And they want to prove that these guys are superstars, and they just tried too hard. And then the second part of it is the whole Miles Bird thing, where, Dutcher ripped into Bird, rightfully so, because Bird was getting the ball early in the possession and trying to play hero ball, driving to the basket, going into triple teams, and was getting mugged. And Dutcher rightfully said, hey, man, if it's not there, you pass it, you move the ball around. It's like a 30-second clock. The ball will find you again, and then you're going to make the shot. And then, of course, Miles Bird made that adjustment, and the team did well in the second half. So, who are you? This is a legit program. This is a Power 5, Power 4 program. I don't care what conference they're in. Great coaching, good kids. These are really good character kids and great athletes. I mean, we were seeing from Magoon Guath and Miles Bird is unbelievable. I am still fully on board with this Aztec team.
Okay, so your response is, shut the bleep up. They're 14-5. My response to your response is, if they can't play more consistently, their ass is going to be out of the Mountain West Conference tourney, and they'll be beyond being a bubble team. And UCSD will be in the tournament, and San Diego State will be like you and me sitting at home watching it on TV. You're not. Okay. You're telling me that being down 30-10 to San Jose is acceptable.
No,
you're telling me that letting Air Force have an 18-2 run at you at home in front of the Viejas Crazies is acceptable. You're telling me getting your ass kicked in New Mexico, losing to Vegas, and almost losing to Colorado Springs is acceptable? Who are you?
But this is college basketball. This is not just an Aztec thing. This happens with all kinds of teams. I mean, didn't Santa Clara beat Gonzaga? I mean, there's all kinds of this sort of crazy stuff that goes down. So I'm fully on board. Now, granted, I'm a UCSD alum. I'm overjoyed that the Tritons are doing well, and they still got to knock off Irvine if they think they have a shot to get to the big dance. But the Aztecs are better than the Tritons. The Aztecs beat the Tritons, So I love UCSD, but the Aztecs are a different level. So I'm concerned. I share your opinion. They lost 3 at home. One of them was to Gonzaga, which you can sort of excuse, but the other 2 losses at home were unacceptable. But these guys have got to figure it out, and they'll be all right. They're going to get to the tournament, the Mountain West tournament in Vegas. They're going to have to go on a run. But to your point, if they lose another game really in this Mountain West regular season against some of these woebegons at the bottom of the list, they're going to be knocking themselves out of consideration for an at-large bid.
I'm not trying to incite anybody, but I want you to call my Kiss My Aztec line and just give me your opinion. Is that validity, what I said? Aztecs, who are you? This late in the season to have this many question marks with a team that played so well early, or if people figured them out? You're into college basketball. Feel free to jump on board. Join us. The Fans Forum chat box is open. And I want you to email everybody. I want you to text your friends and say, Hacksaw right now on YouTube on his channel is talking Aztec basketball. Feel free to pile in to the Fans Forum chat box, or if you want, pile on. Just don't be lame. Bring your A game. Okay, we go from that. Next topic, different sport.
Different sport. Let's talk about the NFL. Names in the news.
Yeah, let's just run around the street corner here and talk about names, new jobs. Pete Carroll, Raiders. They're going crazy in Vegas with Pete Carroll coming on board as head coach with the hiring of Spycheck, the new general manager. Burning question, what are you going to do for quarterback? Well, they don't need to solve that today, but they're hiring coaches right now to fill out Pete Carroll's staff. But in terms of quarterbacks, interesting names have surfaced. Yeah, we connect the dots. Russell Wilson, short-term rental, probably going to leave the Pittsburgh Steelers now based on what Art Rooney just had to say. Another name just surfaced. Wants to come back in the NFL. Maybe 1-year rental. Ryan Tannehill, who had a fair amount of success, Tennessee Titans, before he got hurt and then was out of football last season. Unique name, Kirk Cousins, hired gun. Will Atlanta release him? That rumor is out there. Now, price tag would have to come way down. People, I think, should be tired of paying Kirk Cousins $35 million a year when he doesn't win the bleeping playoff games, the most important time of the season. Unique name, just surfaced. Jameis Winston. Hired gun, athlete, rifle arm, throws touchdowns, throws interceptions, takes sacks. Has not always been in a great situation. Jameis Winston, with Pete Carroll's coaching, maybe they refine him and you get him on a short-term contract because you're going to have a tough time, I think, going up to be able to get access to one of the top quarterbacks in the draft because you have to pay an extraordinary price to make that happen. And are you guaranteed what you're getting to the top of the draft boards ready to come be your star quarterback immediately? Of all the names I just ran through, Raider Nation, out of jail on bail, feel free. Fans forum, give me your response. Jameis Winston, rather than Kirk Cousins, rather than any of these other guys we just mentioned? Interesting name there. Second name, Mike McCarthy. This one really surprises me. He's going to sit out the year. Now, he's getting paid. He doesn't have a contract. His contract expired, but he's banked a lot of money. He's going to sit the year. He turned down, canceled out the interview with the New Orleans Saints, which kind of surprises me because I thought McCarthy, Saints history, Derek Carr, Alvin Kamara, wide receivers, that'd be a pretty good mix going in the front door, bringing Mike McCarthy's playbook there. He doesn't want to work for those people. I was told he doesn't want to work for Mickey Loomis, the president and general manager. So Mike McCarthy's going to sit. And then right after that, hot coordinator Cliff Kingsbury backs out of an interview in New Orleans. Nobody wants to go work for the New Orleans Saints right now. Kingsbury's going to stay as the offensive coordinator with the Washington Commanders and their young quarterback, Jaden Daniels. Next name, Ron Rivera. Maybe he surfaces in New Orleans yet. But I guess the term recycled coach kind of fits him because as good a job as Rivera did different places, he never really won something significant. It was in Carolina where they had success and then they fired him. So Rivera's on the outside looking, and it might be the end of the road for him. Eric Bieniemy, Kansas City Chiefs right-hand man, Andy Reid, creative guy, offensive coordinator, goes to UCLA. Bad decision. I don't know whether that decision is on that UCLA head coach who hired him or Bieniemy going to work for Deshaun Foster 9 months after he got hired, out. At this point, there's been no conversation about him going back to Kansas City. Bieniemy just interviewed in New England, not for the offensive coordinator's job under Mike Vrabel, but just to go in the front door, maybe as being the running back coach. It's interesting how his career has kind of gone off the freeway. And the final one, television ratings. Did you know that the term America's team has been transferred from Dallas to Kansas City? Kansas City Chiefs have the highest TV ratings across the board for the entire season on network TV in the NFL. Buffalo, Kansas City, 55.7 million watched that game on Sunday. Highest TV rating AFC Championship game since 1982. That was a few third downs ago. That was pretty impressive. Meanwhile, I don't understand this. Philadelphia, Washington, only 44 million watched that NFC Championship game, which was a hell of a game. And the ratings are down 21%. Is that because nobody likes the Eagles or nobody cares or identifies with anything Washington's accomplished? That's kind of strange, except maybe that's a geographical thing. It's right around I-95 and nobody gives a crap in the Northeast about any team that's right on the I-95 border. Those numbers were way down. So, John, put a lot of names up there. Pick one or two you want to talk about. Go ahead, respond.
Okay, for the Raiders, love the idea of these new quarterbacks. You're talking about Jameis Winston. I mean, they already have Jameis Winston. His name's Gardner Minshew. He throws touchdowns and interceptions and gets sacked. They already have that.
Not to the volume, though, that Winston does. And Winston's put up 4,000-yard passing seasons. Yeah, he's been in weird situations, too. But he's still fairly young at age 31, 32. And maybe you streamline him and you put good people, better people around him, and maybe he doesn't have to carry the whole thing by himself. Maybe he stops making mistakes.
Well, if they draft a young quarterback, then maybe you could have an old veteran, maybe for a half a season to kind of ramp them in. But they're at number 12 on the draft board. So all the big name quarterbacks are going to be gone by then. So I don't know. Again, a couple of these other guys, McCarthy and Kingsbury, both like turning down the Saints, right? And I think they're just being careful. Kingsbury doesn't want to get burned again. You had a bad situation in Arizona. And the TV ratings, yeah, you're right. The Chiefs are America's team because it's all of the magic of Mahomes. It's the Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift angle, but it's also all of the drama around the referees. And is there anything going on? Did you see? Did you ever watch the Rich Eisen show?
Yes.
Yeah, and he had Bill Burr, the comedian, on, and they were talking about the Chiefs, and Burr was hinting, that there was some manipulation, that the league wants them to win. He kept saying, well, it's a business, we need to promote them. And then Rich Eisen, who's like an NFL guy, was like, what are you saying? The refs are on the take? And Bill Burr is like, no, they just sort of massage the situation just to let the Chiefs win.
Thou shalt not get involved in conspiracies on my podcast.
So I think, yeah, it makes sense that the Chiefs are going to get a lot of love. I'm surprised you didn't say the Buffalo Bills were the next America's team.
No. Kansas City right now, but just based on the TV ratings the entire season. You got an opinion about some of those hot names, who has a job, who's walked away from a potential job. Fans forum chat box is open. Pile in here. Give us an opinion. Last topic on the table, late-breaking stories, and there's stuff everywhere, John.
Yeah, the high-speed sports wire.
Let's talk about the University of Michigan. This situation has really gotten ugly. 2 people within the last 2 days have gone public and absolutely shredded Jim Harbaugh, the Chargers head coach, for how he's acted, what he said, what he did when he left the University of Michigan in the middle of the night before the NCAA got to the front door in Ann Arbor. Absolutely stunning. Paul Feinbaum, who has become a national college football guru for everything he does on ESPN, just ripped Harbaugh yesterday. Called him the most disingenuous fraud he's ever crossed paths with, indicated that everything he's ever said about the University of Michigan was made up, and that he was integrally involved with the scandal of the University of Michigan, the Connor Stallions, Videogate, Spygate scandal. That came a day after Brett Bielema, the head coach of the University of Illinois, almost said the exact same things about the former head coach in Ann Arbor, and also indicated that Michigan was glad to have him go. And if you don't believe me in Champaign-Urbana, Illinois, just ask the people at Michigan, Stanford, and the San Francisco 49ers about what a high-maintenance guy Harbaugh is. Real unbelievable condemnation. Disingenuous fraud. I wonder if that's going to be followed by a slander lawsuit by Harbaugh towards Paul Feinbaum. Interesting story there. Colorado. Unbelievable year and a half. Neon Deion, Coach Prime, Boulder, everything they got accomplished at Colorado. Now the star players have gone on. Star players are at the Senior Bowl workouts. Not going very well. First, Shedeur Sanders refused to throw. Check my tape. I don't need to practice in front of these scouts anymore. Check my tape when I'm done. Shedeur Sanders and through his father saying, well, we might not accept getting drafted by a certain team. They're trying to control where Shedeur Sanders is going to go. And then there's the Heisman Trophy winner, Travis Hunter, who's been high-stepping ever since the night of the ceremony when he got the trophy, and deservedly so, and I voted for him. But Travis Hunter getting killed in the individual workouts at the Senior Bowl. Can't cover anybody. And now scouts are saying this guy got by strictly on athleticism in college football and has no technique, can't cover people. And I've seen video of him in one-on-one against pass routes just get smoked. His draft status is plunging. This kid is not going to be drafted in the top 5. I don't know where this kid's going to fall in the first round, but he may be able to run and he may be gifted as a two-position player, but as a cover corner in one-on-one workouts.
Are you talking about Shiloh Sanders or Travis Hunter?
Travis Hunter.
Wow.
Not good. And Shiloh Sanders hadn't done anything at the combines either. So that's where we are there. And the third topic on the table is what has transpired in the last 24 hours. At 9 p.m. last night, that plane crash in Washington, D.C. And this covers sports, but it also spills into politics and it spills across America. America is grieving this terrible plane crash with this military Black Hawk helicopter evidently flying into the tail of an American Airlines regional jet, killing everybody on board as it plunged into the Potomac River. And National Transportation Safety Board arrived there at 3 o'clock in the morning and have begun the investigation. What has really become bothersome is what has happened at the press conferences in the last 6 to 12 hours. President Trump, what he said at the press conference was beyond comprehension. I'm going to say some things here. I'm going to invoke my right to have the First Amendment. I don't care who you voted for. You have your reasons. He had his reasons. I have my reasons. What Donald Trump said was despicable. What he said was dishonest. What he said was disgraceful. What he said was humiliating. What he said was uninformed. What he said was strictly politically driven. In a country that is grieving over the death of 67 people, including 16 members of the Boston Skating Club, including the families of 2 Russian Olympians who retired, became coaches, who were on that plane. It was just horrid. And for Trump to take it in one sentence, blaming the pilot of the military helicopter, in the next sentence, blaming the people in the air control tower, in the third sentence, blaming the Democrats, DEI, and Obama, without any information whatsoever, because the NTSB didn't get there till 3 o'clock in the morning and don't even have the black boxes yet and have not been able to extract the wreckage nor get all the bodies out of the crumbled aircraft. For the President of the United States to make all these assertions just to say whatever's off the top of his mind on network TV, it has infuriated the national media. It has infuriated families. Social media, for the first time in my life, has become valid to become unsocial in media with the condemnation of this person. And if that's not enough, we have to sit here on the alternating days and watch these congressional hearings of all of his presidential appointments. You know, the people who are criminals, the people who are crackpots, the people who are creeps that he wants to install the most important positions in our government. You may have voted for him. I don't know why. You tell me your reaction to what he just did today, uninformed as he was, reaching out and pulling all these things off the table before the NTSB was even able to start their investigation, gather the information, even recover the bodies, and yet he's blaming the military, the air control towers, and he's blaming the Democrats. Just ungodly. At the end of the day, you may agree with me, you may disagree with me. The President of the United States is pathologically immoral as a person. That's one man's opinion on sports, invoking my right to my First Amendment. John, you want to talk Harbaugh? You want to talk about Neon Deion? You want to talk about what just happened in Washington, D.C.? The podium belongs to you.
Wow. Okay. First of all, we have to talk about the White House thing. There's a couple of angles to this. First of all, this is all calculated, what he's doing. You know, he's throwing out all of these distractions and shiny objects and trying to get people to, jump on the bait. And you're doing it. You're kind of, and granted, you have a legitimate reason to do it. And what he said was wrong, trying to blame DEI programs. There's problems with DEI, but this isn't it. So, but the funny part of this, the whole time I'm listening to you talk about this, I'm thinking, this is kind of what Hacksaw does in Hacksaw's headlines, where he comes out and throws all this stuff on the table and gets people excited and they start firing questions and firing back. But But yeah, I mean, this is a tragic situation that happened in Washington, D.C. They need to do the investigation, and now is not the time to be pointing fingers at this sort of thing. But this is all part of the theater that we're seeing in D.C. that Trump is, he's like a puppeteer.
Is it acceptable?
Of course not. No. From a political perspective, it's completely nonsense. It's wrong. It's immoral. I back you 100% on what he did or what you said. But I can see the manipulation, the gaslighting that's actually happening in real life here.
Horrible.
It is horrible.
I grieved last night. I come from a military family. My son, who's a helicopter pilot, puts his life on the line fighting forest fires and doing search and rescue, is about to begin night goggle training in Texas. That's part of his career to put on his resume. And to hear that man condemn the military with no data, no information, then condemn the air traffic controllers, then to condemn the Democrats, blame it on DEI, and to have a whole pile of Americans stand up and clap and say, yeah, right on. You're entitled to a vote, whoever you want to vote for. You're entitled to have your own opinions. I'm entitled to use the First Amendment to tell you on my podcast what I think. You may agree, you may disagree. That's okay. But that's where I'm coming from my corner of the world at this hour. And I grieve for those people. I can't imagine dying instantly the way those people died. And we don't know the specifics of how this happened, why this happened, or was it just happened?
Well, it's interesting too that we're bringing this up, and usually whenever politics creeps into the podcast, it gets some people fired up. Don't talk politics, but there's a legitimate sports angle to the story.
With the tragedy with the skaters.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a valid thing to bring up in your show, but we're going to find out more. But it's also just so odd that something like this would have happened. It's just a horrible accident.
Accidents happen.
Yeah,
forest fires happen. At the end of the day, maybe there is blame, but you don't blame anybody 6 hours after the NTSB got there at 3 o'clock in the morning to try to recover.
This is all, again, part of the gaslighting, because he comes in like he knows everything, right? Oh, I know what happened, and it's this guy's fault and that guy's fault, and they need to do this investigation. It's Mr. I alone can fix it. So this is all theater right now, and it's getting everyone hyped up, and his base is loving every minute of it. So this is all part of the divisiveness of society, and it's all button pushing.
You push my button. That's my one man's opinion on that. Hey, this podcast is brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers. 9 locations to serve you. You got projects, they've got materials. You got ideas, they can help you with that too. Dixie Line Lumber. Okay, pile in to the Fans Forum chat box right now. You go anywhere you want in terms of topics on the table. Just make your comments concise so we can get to as many as we can here. Whether it's about sports or whether it's just about what we just talked about as to relates to what happened in Washington, D.C. Are you ready, John?
I'm ready.
You think I should be ready?
Yeah, you might get some shots fired your way.
Go ahead.
Okay, let's go here to Dave. And he goes, NFL is a bad product. More commercials than action. Maybe that's why the ratings are down. They need to speed up the game. Seems like a 60-minute game should be finished in 2 hours.
But the TV ratings are not down to the point it's catastrophic. Have they dropped a little bit this year? Yes, they have. It's kind of odd, but there's some bad football out there too. Has the landscape changed? Yeah. But you can't sit there and tell me the Detroit Lions were not entertaining to watch and to see what Dan Campbell has done. You can't tell me that Mahomes and Andy Reid and going for the 3rd straight Super Bowl is not fascinating. You can't tell me the Eagles are not great or Buffalo has arrived. I mean, there always will be good teams and good storylines. So I'm a little bit surprised why those numbers have dropped. In terms of officiating, they got a problem because the game is bigger, faster, much more physical. They need to continue to work to expand use of instant replay challenges on questionable calls, face mask hits, obviously possessions. I don't know whether we put microchips in footballs that help you actually locate where the ball is on the yard line. You know, the Josh Allen quarterback sneaks and all that. I don't think there's anything wrong with the product. The game has to be made safer, and you got technology, which means you want more of the right decisions to make. I think it's a very hard game for these guys to officiate. John?
You know, it's funny that people wanting to manipulate the game the way they've done in baseball to try to speed it up or change the rules or something. I remember one time, a long time ago, Jim Rome said that the NFL is the perfect sport for television. The way they have a play and then they take a break to call the next play, which gives the announcers the ability to, make comments and do analysis. And then there are lots of timeouts and breaks for commercials. It's like the perfect television sport. And I buy in on that. But it used to be that a 1 hour, 60-minute game would last maybe 2.5 to 3 hours on television. Now it's lasting 3.5, maybe 4 hours on television. And so I think this is a legitimate point. Now, for me as a fan, sometimes I find myself watching the game. Part of it is because of the game. And sometimes the game is a little bit of a drag. But I sometimes mostly watch it because it's part of American culture,
yes.
And the nation is watching it. And there's more going on here rather than just some guys throwing around a leather pigskin.
They got technology to make the game better. I do think as we get to June, July, and the owners' meetings, the competition committee, we're going to be talking. They're going to invoke some more changes in the rules to help the referees out because the game is unbelievably fast. And there's a lot more stuff there that has to be called correctly, and you can't keep up with it. So therefore, instant replay will help you. They'll find a way to invoke additional challenges to make sure we get the call right. That, to me, is the most important thing.
Yeah, well, they do need to get the call right. But, to your point about how fast the league is, when we're watching from our couch and we watch these dudes on the field, they look fast, but you're like, they're all kind of fast, right? Then every once in a while, there'll be a player that's really fast, like Worthy for the Chiefs or some of these guys. And you're like, holy crap. And some of these young kids that are returning kickoffs and punts, and they hit that second or third gear. It's like incredible how fast these guys are. So it's a great game. And to me, I see it. It's a lot like the gladiator games back, in the Roman Empire. It has that flavor to it. But it's a great part of America.
Well, Dave, I'm going to disagree. It's not a bad product. It's a very fast product that they got to polish and help the officials with. Let's move on.
Okay. I suspect this is from Manny, who might be a Dodger fan. He goes, Lee, I just got one question. How many days till catchers and pitchers report to spring training?
Yeah, February 15th for the most clubs. Can't come fast enough. It's going to be great. We on our podcast on Monday, we did a breakdown of all the Dodger pitchers, the Dodger blueprint. I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal. The Dodgers have 23 pitchers who've won games in the major leagues, and a lot of them with the Dodgers. Now, they can't keep them all. Some guys have got options left. Some guys might be used as trade bait, but this Dodger pitching staff roster, this to me is just unbelievable. And the flip side of that is we're based in San Diego, so we're dealing with a Padres situation in which they've been paralyzed by the passing of Peter Seidler, paralyzed by the impact of decisions as it relates to the roster, paralyzed by A.J. Preller's contracts that he's given out that he can't trade. So we're not done yet. I'm trying to be patient. I'm giving Preller more space to do magic because he's done magic in the past. But my big private concern is if you trade Arise or if you trade Cease to get out from underneath the contract, you're creating another hole on your roster. And even if you're getting young guys who are controllable, are they going to be equal to what you just let go? Because last I checked, Arise won the National League batting title and Cease pitched your ass into postseason with so many quality starts over the course of the campaign. Am I right or am I right?
It seems like AJ is backed into a corner here.
Yes.
Unless he does something radical. I mean, can you see him ever trying to trade Tatis? I mean, I know he has a no trade, but it almost seems like he has to do something radical to sort of right size and normalize the roster and the payroll.
That's a kind way of saying he's got to do something radical for all the other mistakes he's made, because I think that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, well, that's true to a degree. I agree as well. And by the way, Manny, I like this comment about pitchers and catchers reporting. I just remember one time I was in Chicago, freezing my ass off. And it was in the middle of the winter, and they were all saying, hey, man, pitchers and catchers report in a few weeks. And it was just like this feel-good time that spring is coming, and the good times are coming back. And I can already feel Manny's vibe right
Can
now.
you imagine living in Chicago where the winter off Lake Michigan's pretty vicious and thinking about the Cubs, Mesa, Arizona, Hohokam Park. Once upon a time, the Cubs trained in Palm Springs. Once upon a time, way back in the day, they trained on Catalina Island. Can you imagine living in the 312 area code where it's always cold and always snowing and thinking about Ah, the Cactus League.
Yeah, and you know, I've been to Catalina where to this museum, and they had pictures, you know, because I guess it was the Wrigley family.
Yes, 1940s that owned a hotel there.
Yeah, exactly. So you see these old time ball players there, and I'm thinking, wow, that'd be a hell of a, you know, a road trip to go play a ball game in Catalina.
Especially if you lived in Chicago in December, January, and February.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, no more history lessons. Next one. Thanks, David.
Okay, let's go to Emmanuel. And he goes, how important are TV ratings to sports leagues? The NBA is losing viewers, but signing big dollar TV contracts.
After a while, though, it catches up to you. I mean, if your TV ratings continue to slide, you're going to have a problem when the next, quote, TV contract comes up. And that's why the NBA's got a problem, because the quality of the game is different. The quality of the game has slipped. That's why the NBA is seriously looking about changing the three-point line. And, I mean, they've tried a whole bunch of wild things as it relates to the All-Star game. I'm sorry, I'm not watching any of this All-Star game stuff with this 4-team tournament. I'm sorry, I don't buy into the NBA Cup in November and December. Now, if you want to give me an All-Star game that has North America versus the world with all the money, bonus money, $1 billion bonus money that's going to go to charity to feed hungry Americans, I'll watch that because that's got value. But don't give me this 4-team tournament. Everybody plays to 40 points and then bogus. But the league's got I think the NBA's got a real significant problem. NFL ratings continue to be up here. Baseball's ratings have gone up. NHL, huge jumps thanks to cable channels and everybody getting much better TV deals. But NBA, I think, has got a big problem.
I was reading today on your Best 15 that Caitlin Clark is backing out of the three-point contest in the NBA All-Star game, which I thought, well, what a great idea that is. You know, to have men and women in that competing against each other, that would have been a TV hit for sure.
I concur, but she's backed out because now her idea is, why should I go there? Why don't they come here?
Oh, God.
WNBA TV ratings have gone up and up, thanks to Caitlin Clark and all the other great young talents there. But now she's proposed, during our All-Star game, let's bring some of the NBA players into our All-Star game, and we'll have the three-point contest at the WNBA Midwinter Classic, not the NBA Classic.
Oh, come on. I mean, you know, be realistic.
I'm just telling you what she said.
Yeah, the WNBA has a lot to respect. They're rising up, but they're still a little sister to the big-time NBA boys.
Okay, let's move on here. We got a ton of people stacked up with opinions. John?
Okay, we're going to talk here a little Aztecs with the O-Siders. He says, freshman Danny O'Neill transferred after we invested in him, which is sad. I'm afraid Guath will do the same. In the future, do you see NCAA allowing programs to make players commit to multi-year deals?
Every time the NCAA makes a decision, they get sued and they lose in court. You know, this is a terrible thing to say. I thought about this the other night as Guath was putting up big points and carrying them to this win over San Jose State. This is mean of me to say, but I hope Aztec fans enjoy this, because somebody from the Atlantic Coast Conference is going to offer this kid $1 million to go in the transfer portal. He's not going to stay at San Diego State, I don't think, unless there's unique loyalty towards Dutcher for the investment. It's where college athletics is right now, and I think it's sad. Are they going to get it under control? I think they are within a year's time. I think there's going to be changes in the NIL. I think there's going to be changes in the transfer portal. They need a legitimate commissioner. They need a legitimate football person. Everybody says Nick Saban to run the football side of the equation. So there will be more changes. But right now the thing is utter chaos, and it's really sad. And I'm pissed that Danny O'Neill bailed on Sean Lewis, because he invested everything to help that kid fast track. And a day after Danny O'Neill signed at Wisconsin went back out and got a starting quarterback from another school to come in. And Danny O'Neill's going to be a backup if he plays at all. He was a starter here, could have been the cornerstone here to build the thing. So I'm disappointed.
You can't blame a kid for going for a better opportunity.
Okay.
I mean, that's like you blaming Jim Rome when he left 690 for, doing something different. So
he took the show that I turned down.
Yeah.
They offered it to me.
You should have taken it.
No, I couldn't have taken it because I didn't want to wreck everything I had here in San Diego.
You would have been hacksaw nationwide. It would have been awesome, But I'll tell you what, Magoon Guath is not just a fantastic player with a lot of potential, but he's a good kid. Yep. That press conference that he did with Miles Bird, they kind of were were real, and they were acting like 19, 20-year-old kids. And it was fun listening to him. And Magoon Guath has just got that big round baby face, but man, is he good on the court, and he can do it all.
He's getting better and better, but that's by virtue of, thank you, Brian Dutcher. I fear that we're going to wake up and he's going to be gone, because that's what's happening.
Well, Miles Bird, I think, has already signed an agent, so he might be going to the NBA. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the whole landscape is changing. But it just seems that back in the day, the idea of transferring out to another school was just so rare, barely ever happened. But scholarships are 1-year deals. So if they flip this and make scholarships to a commit to a 2, 3, 4-year package deal, then the players will stick around.
Or NIL packages is what you're talking about, not just the scholarships.
Well, yeah.
So we'll see. This thing, I bet a year from today, when we're doing this podcast, we're going to be talking about probable changes in how the NIL transfer portal operates, but not right now, unfortunately. Okay, next one.
Okay, let's go here to Flegel, talk some baseball. It says Trevor Bauer is a toxic waste. Max Scherzer is a 40-year-old and injury prone.
The only issue is I still think toxic waste can pitch. He's 89 and 64 as a starter. Guy went 20-2 in Japan and Mexico. I still think as your third or fourth starter, you get him an affordable price because he wants to pitch in the major leagues to rebuild his career and his reputation. You get him for a 1-year rental and see if it works out. Scherzer's got a lot of miles on him. I concur with you there, but he just had a showcase and the Padres were not there. He's probably going to sign a 1-year contract with somebody, but it's probably decent value. Maybe it's $5 million with incentives. You mean to tell me the Padres can't afford $5 million to get Trevor Bauer in here, get Scherzer in here in a 1-year rental that would make a difference, be an insurance policy? That's the thing. They could have gotten him without having to give up Cease or et cetera. They're going to have to move somebody, obviously, because the payroll is too high. But that's where we are right now. But Bauer's gone to the Bay Stars in Japan. Scherzer's held a tryout already in Arizona. I'm sure he's going to sign somewhere, and we'll just see if he can be what he used to be at age 40. But you don't know till you try. And as I said, we're sitting here with a roster that's got problems right now. Padre, you can't sit there and tell me that the Padres right now are on the same level as what the Dodgers are. And now you got what the Diamondbacks have done, and we got the Giants have done, and all the Padres have done is signed 17 minor league free agents. Hardly any of them have ever been in the major leagues. I think it's a problem. I do. I'm giving Preller space. AJ needs to work some magic on the next transaction. I do think there's going to have to be a transaction at least.
What if it's funny? You say toxic waste can still pitch, but it's not just a Padre thing. He's willing to play anywhere, and he's willing to play for the minimum. And I see him on Twitter saying these things all the time. Like, I'm willing to come, what's the deal? And I'm thinking, well, the reason no one wants to sign him is because he's been blacklisted, because he's a cancer. He's going to cause problems. And I think the situation in San Diego is even extra unique because the woman that accused him, I think, have some ties with the Padres.
She used to work for them.
Yeah. So there's more to it that we're, behind the curtain.
Was he ever charged? No. Was the lawsuit ever go forward? No, it was thrown out of court.
Yeah, he got screwed, but he's not.
But he put himself in a bad situation with bad decisions.
Yeah, and then he keeps, stirring the pot and making it worse for himself. So, here we go.
That's where we are. Thank you for the input, Flegel.
Okay, let's go here to Chris. He goes, Canada hotline here from the beautiful province of Pasadena, California. Saw the Kings cannot score goals. Another hot start and then hitting the skids. Please tell me Rob Blake has a couple of deals in the works for some guys that can tickle the twine more than once a month.
Well, I think the only thing, Chris, is that their payroll is really high. And they got a bunch of $8 million guys that other clubs are not going to take on a trade. I'm disappointed. I thought Kevin Fiala would be a lot more of a goal scorer for the Kings, and he's been very erratic. That's $8 million. If he can't score in LA with Kopitar and Kempe and all the people around him, what makes you think he's going to score goals if you trade him somewhere? And by the way, he's going to eat up $8 million of your salary cap. That's an issue. Just got Drew Doughty back last night. Played his first game coming off the dislocated or the fractured ankle that he had in preseason. So let's just give them a little bit more space. But there's not, in all honesty, I just don't think there's a lot of budgetary space for the Kings to be able to make any type of transaction. Trade deadline doesn't come up till March, so they still have some space here. But you're right. They're not scoring goals right now. They have won only, I think, 2 of their last 9 games. So King's got to do a little evaluation. Is it restructuring of who plays with who on the lines? I don't know. I don't have an answer right now, but there's not a lot I don't think they can do from a player acquisition standpoint. I think whatever solution happens has to come from within. But they scored goals and they won early, so that means it's still there.
You know, Chris is a longtime follower of the podcast, and you could tell he was a fan of your program back in the day. Because
he's got good taste. He's a hockey fan. I talk hockey. I'm the only one that talked hockey.
But he's always channeling the Hacksaw shtick in his fans forum comments. I think this is he's from Pasadena. I mean, that's up the road. But I'll bet you we need to do the get together and the meet and greet with you, because I bet you Chris will come down from Pasadena. It doesn't matter where we set it up.
We'll figure it out. We've been trying to figure it out, but some of us, him and me, have a lot of things on our plate on a day-by-day basis. Trust me, there's a lot of stuff going on in our lives that complicate what we're doing, aside from just showing up and dazzling you on Mondays and Thursdays. Thank you, O Canada, for joining us. Next one.
Okay, let's go to John. He goes, shaking my head over the Padres, their ownership and tradition. Be competitive for 2 to 3 seasons and then suck for 10 to 15 years. Competitive for 2 to 3 years again and repeat. Wonder if they'll draw 3 million next season.
Well, they will, because they've sold out season tickets. But if this is not quality product, if they can't be pennant contender, I think you're going to see an erosion in season ticket support. And, you know, Eric Grupner can put out all the press releases, get on the waiting list and all that. This is going to go away if, by virtue of this front office fiasco, that the ownership starts to cut payroll significantly, because they have to be able to keep quality players. And they have to continue to sign guys for the farm system, and the farm system is negligible. Here, I'll give you a prime example. I thought about this last night. 40-man off-season rosters. You know, you protect all your top young players plus your stars.
Mm-hmm.
The Padres have only 35 guys on their 40-man off-season roster. They're the only team in baseball that does not have a full 40-team roster, because they have nobody that needs to be protected, because they have nothing in AA and AAA that is star-studded, has to be protected yet. Your young guys are not eligible for the 40-man roster. Your kids at A or rookie league or AA. But they're the only team I know in baseball, I've never seen this before, does not have a full 40-man roster at this point of the season.
Well, that sounds like an alarm bell, right? But really, if you've got guys at AA, AAA that are old enough that have to be protected, then you know there's sort of 4A guys in the first place, right? They're not going to be, you know, your stars, because the stars are going to come up immediately. They're going to be on the major league roster, you know, before they need to be protected.
You got a roster with problems.
Yeah.
You don't have anybody ready, and you don't have 40 guys in your organization of the 200 you have signed that need to be protected yet.
Well, that's what Preller's doing. Is he's kind of gotten rid of a lot of those mid-tier guys. You know, he's got the big-time stars with the big money, and he's got the Ethan Salases and the Leonardo DeVries of the world
who don't have to be protected yet.
Yeah, exactly.
But he doesn't have enough numbers.
No, he does. No, he's got it. He's got to get numbers. But I think Preller has been paralyzed because of what's going on upstairs.
John, thank you for the input. John is one of the few guys I know that stays up all night. He and I exchange emails at all hours of the night talking about, quote, topics on the table. Next one.
Okay, let's talk some more Padres here. And this is with Raul. He goes, fans forum here. Go, Lee and John, if you were in the Padres clubhouse and had a hand in the day-to-day operations, how would you go about the civil war in the Padres clubhouse? Hide all.
It's a very intriguing question. And I'll guarantee you that Preller has been impacted by everything that's happening up top, especially the freeze on the payroll. And just the reality that he's made so many transactions and he's given out so many extended contracts with big dollar values, he can't trade them. And that's a problem. And now his hand is being forced. This may sound unfair. This may sound like a cheap shot, but he's being forced to trade an ace pitcher to make up for all the other mistakes he's made. And the minute you remove Cease from your rotation, I don't think you're getting equal value back in return. You know, he traded an MVP in Soto, and he did get Michael King. And he got a young blue chipper that became Dylan Cease on a short-term rental. But I'll guarantee you, if you have to trade a Rise right now in the final year of the contract or Cease, he's not trading from a strength position, and you're getting back in equal to what you're giving up. I think you create another hole on your roster, and a roster still got holes on it. So at the end of the day, His methodology, I think, has come back to haunt him, as John Riley just said. That's AJ painted into a bad corner over there in that room, and he's trying to find a way to get better players here, but his hand's being forced because of what's happened up top.
I remember when the new ownership came, and this is before Seidler. This is when Fowler was the number one guy. And they said, we want to build an organization. We're going to get a president first, then a GM, then a field manager. And they went about it the right way. AJ Preller said he was going to build from the farm, have a lot of assets, stock it up. I was like, okay, they're finally doing it the right way. But it just seemed that Peter Seidler, the minute he got involved, we love him to death. I mean, but he basically blew up that model, because we want something now. We want immediate return. We want the shiny object. We want to contend today, sadly, before he passes away. It's kind of blown up that whole model.
Well, they blew it up to a degree, but they put quality on the field. But then Preller traded the farm system away 3 times. 3 times. He's used all the money they paid, and they overpaid on a lot of those draft picks, and traded those guys. Now, your response could be, well, they got quality in return. We got Tatis for James Shields, but they had to pay a hell of a price to get rid of Shields' contract. And they're still paying on Eric Hosmer's contract, which has turned out to be a fiasco. And if you look at the trades, the Trey Turner deal, for them to hit the eject button on a whole bunch of these guys, it's just, they had the big stars. They had a farm system. He kept trading. He's addicted to making trades. And now, because a whole pile of them haven't worked out and he's stripped the farm system again, that's him over in the corner of that room who's now got to make a deal to pair the payroll, and he's not going to get equal value for Dylan Cease or Luis Ariz. At least I don't think so.
No. When they know that you have to deal them, you're going to get lowballed in all the offers. So Preller's in a bad spot, but
he created it.
Well, yeah, he partly created. I think a lot of it was that the ownership was also pushing him to sign all these guys, which then it definitely put them back them into a corner. I don't know. To me, if you're a general manager, if you can hit on 50% of your trades, that's good. Usually trades rarely work out. Usually guys are duds, or they just, it doesn't make sense.
You'd like to think win-win for both sides.
Ideally.
He got value out of Soto. He's got 1 pitcher out of Soto. Second pitcher's in Chicago with an arm problem that brought him Cease, but now he's got to trade Cease.
Yeah, and then Higashioka is gone. Vasquez shows us a little bit sometimes. Yeah, Preller's in a bad spot.
He created it, sadly. But give him space. Let's see if he can work some magic and find somebody unique that might take on one of these guys and be willing to give you something of significance. Okay, move on.
Okay, let's go here to our good buddy David. And he says, he gave us $5. Thanks, David. Dodger Fan Fest, Saturday, February 1st, 10 to 3. We welcome Delusion Padre fans.
Well, I tell you what, it's really interesting. They had Fan Fest last weekend, David, and we talked about this. They had some really bad incidents in Pittsburgh and Chicago and Boston, etc. And to the point now that the question is, well, Fan Fest would be fun, but if you can put your general manager or team president there on the top of the dugout and they're going to answer questions, you got angry fans. Wow. I think Fan Fest will be fun for Padre fans this time. But tell you what, everybody's got questions, and the Padres going to be able to answer those questions. And if they don't have a really good season this year, because their hands being forced because of Seidler's passing, the civil war with the Seidlers, the budget restraints, what do you think Fan Fest is going to be like a year from now? Tough set of circumstances in a good baseball city. You brought us to a certain level of expectation. How dare you take that expectation down now by having to make all these transactions? Am I right or am I right?
Yeah, expectations are whacked right now.
Yeah.
I mean, remember 2 years ago, Fan Fest at Petco? It was a zoo,
Yep.
And then they had to reformat it the following year because it was just so crazy. And there's so many fans that were there. See, that's the thing is with sports teams, it's not just a business and we're not just a customer. We have an emotional connection to these franchises.
What do you think Fan Fest for the Dodgers is going to be like this weekend? Because that's this weekend too.
Oh, well, it's going to be a love fest. It's going to be paradise on earth in Chavez Ravine. They're all going to be happy there because the Dodgers can do no wrong.
All right, David, thank you for the contribution. We'll see where this goes. They're not done yet. We're going to be, I swear to you, between now and opening day, we will be talking about some type of significant player deal. Whether it be good for the Padres or not, we'll talk about it.
You know it. Okay, let's go talk a little NBA with Larry Sports Talk. He says, going to be tough for any Western Conference team to add talent to be able to compete with the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Oklahoma City and Houston, unbelievable athletics. They're just guys who can fly, guys who can shoot, guys who can jump. You know, I'll say this about the Clippers. I watched the Clippers the other night. Oh, I'm going to throw this at you. Okay. So here are the Lakers. Lakers are trying to make a trade to get Washington center, Valanciunas. Trying to make a trade to get Peralta, the big center from Toronto. Talking to Indiana about Miles Turner. I saw it as a fourth team. They're trying to get a center, a rim protector. And the only chips they have might be Rui Hachimura, maybe Gabe Vincent, and their 2 number 1 picks. But the centers they're trying to get are not even equal to Anthony Davis playing in the paint. If they asked Anthony Davis to play out of position and just be in the paint. So everybody's walking around with a gun in their hand. You want my center in Toronto who we really want to get rid of? Give me both your number 1s and a player. How does that help you to get a guy who's not even equal to who's playing center right now? So that's a big issue. And then it dawned on me. Do you know who the Lakers center used to be that they got and got rid of real early? Last night, he had 21 points and 22 rebounds. Ivica Zubac, Clippers.
Yeah, he's good.
He's evolved into a really good player. Now, he's not a rim protector in terms of going bat and passes down, but he rebounds like hell. He's got offensive skills. They had him, and he's gone. And here are the Lakers now trying to have to give up both their number 1s. They won't have any number 1s till like 2035 if they do this. What a disaster. What a problem. And you got AD and you got LeBron, and you really don't have anything else of significant import on that roster. You know, maybe you trade Dalton Connect, the number 1 pick, who's sometimes in the lineup, sometimes out of the lineup. I don't know. It's too early to say he's a bust. But why aren't you playing him all the time? Don't you need to polish his 3-point ability and add him to Reeves so at least you got 4 guys who can score? It's just the whole Laker thing is just weird, what they used to be versus what they become.
Well, how could you have an expectation to have another center as good as Anthony Davis? I mean, there are very few people in the league that can match up to be a rim protector like him, right?
But to give up 2 number 1 picks for a middling center out of Toronto or Washington, that's what has to happen.
Yeah. There's no way. I mean, it's not like there's like some magic solution like a Robert Parrish that they could trade for, or a Shaquille O'Neal or something.
Look down the bench. Who the hell do you want off that roster on that Laker bench? Please tell me there's somebody. And if you trade Austin Reeves, what the hell good is that? Now you create another hole. That's just, Lakers got problems. We should apply for jobs at the Lakers because no matter what you do, you never, ever get fired. We should apply for a job with the Lakers.
Yeah, we should.
Okay. How about Zubac? Zubac's become a hell of a player. If you had Zubac, you'd have a lot more offensive firepower and you'd have some grit and grime to go rebound because you don't have it right now.
Well, they traded away a lot of good players. Like Julius Randle turned into a really good player.
Yeah, but he's one dimension and he's kind of a crackpot.
Yeah, well, so again, it seems like so many sports franchises are in the same boat, where they've got these high-priced guys, a bunch of mid-tier dudes. They're running out of draft picks, and the only teams that are like conquering the world are the Dodgers and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay, let's move on. Has anybody responded to the Washington, D.C. plane crash situation press conference?
Let's see.
I mean, we've got so many people stacked up here. John tries to pre-proof these before we punch them up. But go ahead.
No one has dipped their toe in that water.
Ooh, wow,
no
that's
pun intended.
Okay.
So let's go here to there was one up here. Oh yeah, from Matthew. Again, thanks for the donation, Matthew. This season is the Padres' last chance for the core.
Matthew, you hit the nail right on the head. I said they had a 2-year window to do this with Manny, with Xander, not so much with Tatis, with Darvish, with Musgrove. There's an awful lot of age. And these contracts extend out and out. Well, last year they came within 1 game of getting it done, and they won 24 innings and didn't score a run, and they're out. And now they got roster problems. Now they got payroll issues. Farm system's not ready to deliver anybody at this point. Their window may close a little bit earlier than I thought was possible, unless Preller goes into that grab bag he has under his desk and can execute a magic trade that's going to get him the right guys coming here. You know, when they made this Soto deal, I felt they didn't get the right starting pitcher. The starting pitcher I wanted from the Yankees was Clark Schmidt, who pitched really well till he got hurt. And they scoped out Michael King, and Michael King turned out to be a hell of an acquisition. Now, he did it 1 year. We'll see if he can do it a second year and duplicate 175 innings and the very respectable ERA. So let's put your trust in Preller to see what the next transaction brings him. But he's traded away so many young players, have gone so many other places, and a whole pile of them are in Major League Baseball. You know, maybe there's a rental coming. Maybe there's a free agent signing. Cal Quantrill is still out there. Now, he had some health issues in Colorado, but affordable contract, maybe. I just don't know where they're going to go get more people, because right now, unless you're telling me the 7 guys headed by Tom Cosgrove and Vasquez and Brito and Waldron, that those guys are going to save them and become integral parts of the rotation, I just don't see it at this point. And again, they have to trade somebody, so maybe they'll get another Michael King in the next transaction, but I don't know.
What happened to the rumor Clark Schmidt for Luis Arraez?
Yankees spent their money other places. Yeah, the Yankees, after Soto went across the bridge and went to the Mets, the Yankees, I think, acquired 5 different veteran free agents, highlighted by Goldschmidt. That's a 1-year rental, but it's a 1-year rental with a proven veteran player who his numbers have dipped, but they must still think he can hit. And in a better batting order, maybe they will. It's interesting. The Yankees talked extensively about Arraez, but backed away because it's $14 million, and backed away because it's a one-dimension player who doesn't run the bases very well and doesn't play great defense. So they went for Goldschmidt instead with his legacy and his heritage, with hope, well, maybe he's got 1 year left in the gas tank. It's a 1-year rental, and he's earning less than Arraez would have made. And they didn't have to give up anything to get him. That's the explanation.
It's funny when you say 14 mil, because nowadays I'm like, oh, that's nothing. 14 mil, they could figure out a way. It's still a ton of money. I mean, really.
Well, for a talk show host, yes.
Yeah. Okay, let's keep going here. Let's go to Carlos. He goes, why do you always talk down anything Lakers, Rams, and LA Kings, but try to talk up Clippers, Ducks, and Chargers?
Well, I don't talk up the Ducks. I have a real bitch with what Pat Verbeek has done. Now, they look like they're about to turn the corner with a lot of young players, but they're still not in the playoffs, but they're making progress. The Clippers, this whole success of the Clippers spins off on whether or not Kawhi Leonard can be what Kawhi Leonard was. So far, in the 2 weeks he's been back, his minutes have gone up and up. He's gotten more productive. Just got to see if he can hold up. Chargers, it's more about Justin Herbert and maybe the arrival of Harbaugh. Talk down the Lakers. I mean, Carlos, if it's acceptable to you that you're happy the Lakers, the ones with all the banners, you remember all that era, the Lakers with all that heritage and all those banners are fighting to be the 8th or 9th play-in team. If that's acceptable to you, then your standards are different than my standards, especially when you got 2 great players. That's an issue. Rams, when did I talk down the Rams? God, the Rams, Super Bowl ring, Super Bowl twice. Sean McVay, what he accomplished this year, I don't talk them down. Now, they do have issues. Matthew Stafford just announced this morning he's coming back, which is great. Now they got to solve the contract. They got to give him an extension with more guaranteed money. I don't know what they're going to do with Cooper Kupp. And the Kings, they've fixed this thing. All of a sudden, they're not playing very well. So, Carlos, I'm not quite sure I can subscribe that I'm talking down all the time. I'm talking about the issues that specific teams have and my evaluation of those issues. And the ones that have been down are trying to get better. But I call it as I see it. If you have a different set of standards, please invite me on your podcast and we'll talk about what you think. Go ahead, John.
Well, you tell it like it is. You have opinions. Sometimes you'll stir the pot just to stir the pot, but you have a connection with the Chargers that goes way back. So you're going to follow them maybe a little more closely than other NFL teams. So I don't know. I just think Carlos is probably just, a butthurt Laker Rams Kings fan, but you've been praising the Rams all year.
Oh, I think McVay is really, really special. Carlos, what did I just say? McVay is really, really special. Thank you for joining us. Hope you'll call us again. Go ahead, next one.
Okay, let's go here to Cal. And he goes, afternoon, gents. First off, prayers go out to those affected by the plane crash in D.C. Lee, as we near the Four Nations break, if you had to give a letter grade to the Ducks, what grade do you give them?
I give them a C right now. They're force feeding their kids. They're almost to 500, which is a hell of a sight better than they've been in the last 4 or 5 years. Rebuild is really painful. I'm a little bit biased because I'm pissed off at what the Ducks have allowed the San Diego Gulls to become. I mean, that was a flagship team in the American Hockey League that had all these young draft picks here who played well, got them into the AHL playoffs. They were drawing 10, 11,000 fans per game. And now all these years later, the last group of years, they're not winning and they're not drawing. I would have never thought we'd have Gulls games that have 4,100 fans per game when they were drawing 10 and 11,000. Now, Verbeek has taken all the draft picks and they're force feeding them up top. This year, for the first time, those kids are starting to come together. It's tough to rebuild. It's tough to play 20, 21, 22-year-olds with virtually no experience at the NHL level night in, night out and not have pain. So I'd give them a C right now. If they can continue, if they can get to be a 500 team, even though I don't think they make the playoffs, if they get to be close to 500, that's a step in the right direction. And Pat Verbeek still has a fair chunk of salary cap space. Once you get there with the kids and you have a need, maybe you go get a sniper and you overpay somebody and you give them $9 million to come be the cornerstone goal scorer for your Ducks team. But I'm really upset about what they've allowed this San Diego Gulls team to become. And I don't think the Gulls are real happy with me, but it's your product on the ice, and I'm telling you why you are where you are. But that's where I feel, because this franchise was really good when it first got here. That's my spin. John, you got a slap shot you want to take on the blue line?
What's the Four Nations break?
Four Nations is got to do with the All-Star break. They have four nations that are paired together. They're bringing it's kind of like a mini Olympics.
But that's what, aren't they clustering like the Scandinavian as a group and Europe as a group? That's
what the Four Nations tournament is.
Okay.
I don't think it's real sexy. I don't get excited about it. Again, I grew up as a hockey guy in the 70s when we had the Canada Cup with Daryl Sittler and all those great players against the USSR. And when we beat them, that's what international play was really special. The stuff that's jury rigged right now, Four Nations tournament, okay, something to watch, but at the end of the day, does it carry the value that Canada Cup did? No, not in my estimation. Play my schedule. Yeah, this is cool. Okay, fine. Can I play the second half of the schedule after the Four Nations Cup?
Well, I just think all-star games in general are just not as sexy as they used to be.
Yeah.
And they have to keep trying to reinvent it. And it just sucks that Caitlin Clark won't play in the NBA three-point shot. That would be good.
I agree with it from a marketing standpoint. That's must-see TV.
100%.
But she's of the opinion, hey, have Steph Curry come and play in the WNBA three-point shooting contest with Klay Thompson. Yeah, I'd probably watch that. But
Caitlin Clark's like, you know who I am?
Exactly.
I sit in the skybox with Taylor Swift when I watch football.
All right, let's move on here.
Okay, let's go to social media because there's a bunch of guys that want to get involved in there. So let's go here and to here and down the list of social media. Okay, and these are Dodger fans piling in. This is from CSR. As someone that hates the Padres, this is getting better every day. I drink your tears, Padre fans.
Oh, just feel throw a beanball at that guy wearing SD on his jersey. I think what's really going to be interesting is the Dodgers have so many pitchers they can't keep them all. Only a few of them have options left. Now a bunch of guys are going to wind up to start the season on the disabled list. Some of them are still obviously recovering from surgery. We have to see if a Dustin May or Tony Gonsolin has any physical setbacks. But there going to be some transactions. The Dodgers have to move some pitchers out of here because you can't have 23 pitchers. You know, somebody texted me and says, Lee, the league limit is you can have 13 pitchers now on the expanded roster. Why you guys keep saying they can have 14? Well, Ohtani counts as a DH, as an everyday player, even though he will be a part-time pitcher. So in essence, the Dodgers, and again, this is the rules. I'm not saying they avoided the rule, but because Ohtani is so unique, they're going to have 14 pitchers when the Padres or Cincinnati or the Orioles or whomever can only have 13. Because Ohtani will be the 14th pitcher, but he's also your designated hitter. That's how they've gotten around that rule.
Dodgers, Dodgers, Dodgers. You know, it's just, we live in their world.
If I wore my Dodger hoodie again, do you think there'd be people have a heart attack on this podcast?
Yeah, I think, Padre fans would be pretty angry.
Just bring some Tylenol for the day I do that. Go ahead, let's move on.
Okay, moving on. Again, there's some more Padre talk here, and this is from Hector. He goes, PROFAR didn't have a career year in 2024. He had a career first 3 months of the season.
He had about 4 really good months, and then he drifted off. Then he bounced back. Then he kind of tailed off again. He is a career, I think it's 248 hitter. I'm sorry, as much as I liked him, and he was a leader, and he was a personality, I'll close my eyes and forever see him jumping up and down in left field after stealing that home run ball from Dodger fan. That'll be my flashback picture, my scrapbook of Jurickson PROFAR. But I'd never pay him $18 million a year. No, he's got now. If he hit 280 again, a second year in a row, then maybe he deserves another significant pay bump. But I'm not going from 1.5 million where he was when I already offered him 8. I'm not going to 14 mil on a 3-year deal or 4-year deal. And that's what he got from Atlanta. So good guy. He did very well, but they just were not affordable. Not in today's budgetary issues at Petco Park.
If you can get it, you're worth it.
Okay.
Okay. So he got the contract. That means he's worth that money. What was it? 42 mil over 3 years?
Yeah.
Something like that. So you love PROFAR. You know, there's funny, the Dodger fans still hate him for that whole jumping up and down thing, which I thought was great entertainment when that went on. But clearly it would have been a mistake for the Padres to bring him back at that price, even if they didn't have a civil war in the front office, because from a Padre perspective, it wouldn't have made sense financially, but for other teams, it would. And so I wish him the best in Atlanta, and look forward to having him come back here to Petco.
You know, same thing with Ha-Seong Kim. I mean, he did really well in spurts of a couple of years over this 4-year window. But Kim was going to make $8 million if he picked up the last year option coming off shoulder surgery, and instead he goes to sign in Tampa Bay for what, $14 million per over the next 3 years. That's a lot of money for a guy who's coming off labrum surgery.
But that's the market. I mean, that's the crazy part about it, is that's what those guys are worth, And so to your point, Preller has made all those deals and he's got little wiggle room left, and there's no way you can pick up a PROFAR even on a feel good thing.
Yeah. I mean, I like Kim. I think if I close my eyes, my snapshot of Kim are the fans chanting, "Let's go, Kim."
No, Ha-Seong Kim.
Ha-Seong Kim.
Yeah. They're saying his name. Yeah.
It was cool. And, PROFAR jumping up and down. That's a snapshot for all time.
And those two guys are buddies too, which is so cool. That's why another reason I like both of them on the team, just good vibes.
Okay, we move on.
Okay, this is another Padre comment. This is from Raphael. He goes, the ownership battle reminds me of the Major League, the movie. The team is going to end up being sold. Owners have to agree to accept the new order, no?
Well, the problem is we were taken to a certain level and we had high expectations, and Mr. Seidler passed. Things are different now. It becomes a big issue. This franchise was never going to be moved. That was stupid for that statement ever to be put out by Shiel Seidler, which has triggered such terrible reaction towards the front office. Might the franchise be sold? Yeah, it could be. I've had other baseball people intimate to me that they thought within 3 years the franchise would be sold because its value is $2.6 billion. Peter Seidler wanted to keep it in the family and let it run and run and run, but I think Peter did what Peter did because Peter knew this cancer probably was going to come back and his immune system was compromised. It's just a sad story because he was such a great person in terms of what he gave to the community, in addition to what he's done just at Petco Park along. So maybe to be sold again. I sure hope we don't go back to the Tom Werner terrible 15 era. But I hope not. We'll just have to see where this thing goes within 2 years' time. My gut feel, because of the Civil War, I bet within 2 years we're doing this podcast, this franchise will have been sold. Doesn't mean you can't go get great owners. There could be great people out there. Anybody got Steve Ballmer's phone number, LA Clippers?
That'd be the guy to call.
Anything's possible. So we'll see where it goes. But they got to solve this from a credibility and a transparency standpoint with the Seidler family. The Civil War is not good.
Now, I saw a piece on social media that was a clip from an article where the Seidler brothers were quoted, and they referred to the franchise as an O'Malley/Seidler asset. Did you see that?
I didn't see that, but it makes sense because that's where their baseball bloodlines came from. the O'Malley family. Seidler married into the O'Malley family.
But was it Peter Seidler, individual Peter Seidler, that made big money on his own that bought the team, or was it the O'Malley family that all piled in and just made Peter the figurehead?
No, with Seidler Equity. All those Seidler brothers are part of Seidler Equity.
But Peter Seidler's in the number one of Seidler Equity.
Exactly. Was.
Yeah. And then just as an aside, this picture that we use sometimes of Shiel Seidler, you see that hat she's wearing? It's got like the SD logo. It's sort of backwards. Have you been seeing that lately?
No,
it's kind of a thing where I've noticed that you'll see people wear hats where the logo is upside down or it's mirrored, reversed, and it's become like a trendy thing. Like for not to mock a team, but just to have a cool alternative look.
The way I dress, you think I'm trendy? You think I care about that? I'm more into player personnel and moves and deals and trades and rumors, and I'm not very trendy. Thank you.
Okay, well let's keep going here. And this is from Mike. He goes, "Hey Hacksaw, keep John around, and both of you need Aztec gear. Go Aztecs, go John and Saw. Great show."
I've got Aztec gear. I'll have to pull it out of the back of the closet. I don't own anything doesn't have a logo, as you guys witnessed by all the unique and different things I wear. I may send out a memo one day, and I'm going to make us, the co-host, wear a shirt and tie here one day. Now, I dress up on Saturdays. I do this big KUSI sports package at 6:30 on Saturday morning. Now, this guy, do you own a tie? It's a bow tie, right? You show up wearing a bow tie on my podcast?
Well, I'll show up. I'll be Ernie Johnson. Okay. And that'll be my thing, with the bow tie. Now, seriously, I haven't worn a tie probably in 7 or 8 years, and I have no plans to wear them in the future. Maybe when my children get married, I might wear a tie. But no, we're doing a podcast. This is not a suit and tie kind of thing.
Well, maybe you can make a one-time exception and wear that damn bow tie, and then we definitely will look like the odd couple then.
Yeah, we will.
Okay, next one.
Moving on. Okay, let's go back here to I was flipping back and forth between the fans forum comments and the social media stuff. Let's get another social media. More Padres comments. This is from Chris. How do they have record attendance last year and not able to afford more payroll? Time for new investors.
Well, the reality is debt, servicing the debt from all the money that they had to spend while AJ Preller was going on his spending sprees in the years prior before they got good. AJ's burned through an awful lot of money. Record attendance, yes. 3.3 million. Record revenue, yes. Unbelievable. But they're trying to wipe out the debt that AJ incurred. Peter Seidler kept making cash calls of all the other fellow owners that during the course of the season, we need to raise more funds to pay our bills. And they violated baseball's debt limit at one point a year ago and had to take out a loan. So is volumes of money coming in? Yes. But they're trying to wipe out all the red ink from years prior. That's about 8 or 9 years of red ink. So they're trying to balance the books. That's a simple explanation I can give you.
I just wish there was a press conference and we get to see these guys, the Seidler brothers, and kind of hear from them and sort of explain what's going on. I think that's part of the problem. It's just been confusing.
I think this lawsuit's going to go away. It's going to go to arbitration. That's a baseball bylaw. When you have this type of ownership crisis, prime example, the Orioles and the Washington Nationals have been involved in a terrible war over Middle Atlantic Sports Network, MASN, which televises their games. And in terms of the value of the amount of money that the Orioles and Nationals are supposed to split as their revenue from MASN. And it finally wound up going to arbitration. The Orioles ownership was involved with the Angelos family, had a warring faction of family members about who's going to run the team, who's going to control the team. That wound up going to arbitration. That's part of the baseball infrastructure bylaw. This Seidler civil war is going to wind up in arbitration. We don't know what the decision will be. I don't even know when the hearing will be held, but there will be arbitration to determine what's right, what's not right as to what Shiel Seidler said should happen, thought was going to happen, versus what the three other Seidler brothers are saying. This is what Peter laid out on our behalf, and it's all signed and sealed. So I think the lawsuit's going to disappear, but the damage is done because you lost Roki Sasaki. Damage is done because ownership has frozen the payroll, and now AJ is trying to work magic, having to move players out of here.
Isn't this amazing that this is the baseball offseason and we're talking so much about Padre Dodgers and nothing about the Super Bowl? I mean, usually
next week. Podcast will be on the air Monday and Thursday. Next week,
Okay.
a lot of Super Bowl.
Now, I want to go back to I want to talk Super Bowl for a minute. We're in a 2-week gap, right?
Window. Mhm.
Now, didn't it used to be 1 week? And
On some years it did, but NFL wants to keep it front and center in the conversation.
but
So-
it's not front and center right
well,
now.
not in the 619-760-858 area code.
Right.
And by the way, we don't have a bloody team. But I'll guarantee you in lots of other places, it is topic of conversation. But not in San Diego right now because of the baseball crisis. I'll guarantee you, though, we're going to be talking football next week.
Good. Yeah.
Damn right.
Because I remember the last Super Bowl, man, you broke it down. We went through the GMs, the offensive line. We went through the playmaking of Andy Reid. I mean, it was really in-depth analysis.
Monday and Thursday of next week, you will be here prepared to talk football.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. Hey, listen, we hope you've enjoyed the wide variety of topics we put on the table. We do sports talk the way it should be done. Hope you enjoy this podcast. Just a couple of notes. I write a ton on my website every day. It's there first thing in the morning. When we're done with this podcast, go to my website. Just sample the volume of information, leehacksawhamilton.com. On the website homepage, there's a big orange box. Fill it out. Become part of Hacksaw's Insiders Group. You get special emails. We want you on social media. Become a follower of mine. I call it my Twitter All-Star Team on X. Just go to @Hacksaw1090. Hit the follow button. That way you'll get alerts there. Want you to share. Tell everybody what we do Monday and Thursday. Want you to subscribe. When you subscribe on the YouTube channel, you'll get the alert every time we put stuff up because we put extra videos, commentaries, etc. on the YouTube channel too. This podcast brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you. Go to DixieLine.com. Find out all the things they can offer you in terms of materials, in terms of advice, consultant, and ideas. Dixie Line Lumber. John, I don't know, you might get a memo that we just might show up wearing shirts and ties and you can then wear that bow tie next week. Have yourself a great sports weekend.
You too. Looking forward to next week.
And thanks for being with us. Always great to have you part of being teammates here on our podcast, Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast apps. For more content, go to leehacksawhamilton.com.